I'm going to get started. Here's some of our partners coming in. Welcome to all of you to our second Project Scope session for this series. We're glad to have you all here. I'm Caroline Gooden and one of the team members for Project Scope. We have a really exciting series for you this spring. We appreciate all of you that are here this late in the afternoon for those of us on Eastern Standard Time. Just to tell you who we are, some of our partners for Scope are here. We're happy to say that Beth Jordan is here, who without Beth's help, we wouldn't have had this Scope in the first place. So we're excited Beth is with us today. We also have Juliet Souders, who is our facilitator coordinator and arranges all kinds of things for us. Brandon is our technology person for all things Zoom related. Michaela is our evaluation person. We have small group facilitators who are here. We appreciate each one of you. We'll introduce you in a bit. And we're thankful for each of you that are here, our participants. You make it possible. So just to tell you a bit about what's coming up, today we have Amanda Metcalf and Morgan Eversole, who are going to talk to us about a really important topic, the role of peer support for families in recovery. In 2 weeks, we have Carol Cecil and Barb Green, who are going to talk about family provider partnerships. And then on March 24th, we have Miriam Silman back for this series, talking about how systems enable trauma for families with substance use disorder. You all liked her session last time, and she's coming back to do an expanded session. And then in April, we have Kristen Dahl doing a great session on some self-compassion that we can use for ourselves. On April 21st, we have an awesome judge from Letcher County, Judge Kevin Mullins, who's going to talk about court processes for families. I think you're going to love that session as well. May 5th, we have Dr. Jenny Sprang talking about some provider strategies for resilience. And lastly, on May 19th, we have Dr. David Lohr, who's from the Department for Community-Based Services, talking about the medical side of towards an understanding recovery for persons with addiction. So an excellent lineup for you this spring. Just to review some of the takeaways that you all discussed in your small groups 2 weeks ago when we had Dr. Marks, who talked with us about the opioid epidemic in Kentucky. And you all talked about the racial disparities that we noticed in the data, Medicare and Medicaid coverage for recovery, criminalization versus holistic care for substance use disorder, and how childcare can support families in recovery. Really good discussion around all of these points. And your goals for the series, you can see there, greater knowledge about community resources, acknowledging our own biases, and how we can be the best support possible to our families. Juliet, you want to introduce our facilitators for today?
Yeah. So we just want to thank our small group facilitators. Myself and Andrea Whitwer will be facilitating for the Western region. Karen Cottingem will be facilitating the Northern region. Brittany Barber and Kayla Harmon will be facilitating for the Fayette Central region. Caroline Gooden and Bridget Talley will be facilitating for the Southern region. Dr. Myra Beth Bundy will be facilitating the Jefferson region. Mihaela Saylor and Gabby Martin will be working with the Eastern regions. So thank you all so much, and we're really looking forward to those discussions.
Thanks, Juliet. And I will just add here a note, I'll say it again later. When it's time for us to go into breakout sessions, Brandon will post these regions, Western, Northern, Fayette, etc. And you can then pick the region based on where you live, and that will put you into the breakout group of your choice. So we'll ask you to pick the breakout group by where you live. Today's schedule, about the first 10 or 15 minutes, we're just talking about the call procedures. We'll then turn it over to Amanda and Morgan, who will talk about the role of peer support for families in recovery. We'll then have about half an hour where we'll talk about the small group discussion based on what Amanda and Morgan have shared and the case study that they'll share with us. And then we'll come back for the last 15 minutes and wrap up, talk about what we discussed in our small groups. So that's approximately how our schedule will run today. We will end on time and adjust our times accordingly as we go. Just a few reminders for procedures while we're on this call. Please keep your cameras on When you're in your small groups, please unmute so that everyone can share. Put your name and email in the chat as you have been for attendance. We encourage you to take care of your needs during these sessions. We will talk about sensitive topics, and we understand that we each need to take care of our own needs as it's important for us. And we thank you for protecting the confidentiality of all the clients that we discuss, and we won't use any real names as we talk about our clients. This is designed to be a very actively engaged session, and we believe that you will be with this great topic from Amanda and Morgan today. We will use person-first language. As example, we'll talk about a child born substance exposed or a family who has a child with neonatal abstinence syndrome. Our sessions are recorded and closed captioned. You can turn that on if you'd like to see it in your Zoom settings. We encourage you to ask questions at any time in the chat, and Juliet and I will pose them to Amanda and Morgan as they talk. And we ask that you respect all viewpoints that are shared throughout our time together. Also, just a reminder, we're talking about addiction and how it affects children across Kentucky. A reminder that addiction is a disease, not a choice. We will end on time. And please send us case studies on the topics coming up. You can send to Juliet or me. Our addresses are on the end of these slides, which you have. If you send in a case study, you get a choice to pick a book of your choice on the topics that we're talking about. So a great incentive if you want to send in a challenge for us, a case study challenge for us to talk about next session or any of the later sessions. A couple terms that you'll hear today. We'll talk about substance use disorder. We talked about this last time as well. It affects brain and behavior, leads to an inability to control the use of substances such as legal and illegal drugs, alcohol, and medications. And you'll hear lots about peer support specialists. These are persons with lived experience who coach each other in recovery. Very important function. Brandon.
Yeah, so as you may have already heard me mention before, make note of our resource page here. That's where we post the slides. That's where you can find previous recordings of past sessions. If you've got questions or have issues accessing any of that, please reach out to me. And one quick note regarding breakouts too. I have gone ahead and pre-assigned most of you who I'm pretty sure I know where you're at. So you might just go directly into a room. If it's just way off, feel free to jump back out and we'll get you in the right place. And one more note, Northern and Southern, we might have you join with another group today because the numbers there are a little low, but we'll see. I'll stay tuned. But thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks, Brandon. Just put us where you need us as facilitators. Happy to go. So to tell you a bit about today's session and our presenters for today, again, we're talking about the role of peer support for families in recovery. We have Amanda Metcalf, who is presenting. Amanda is from the Kentucky Partnership for Families and Children. She's the family leadership coordinator there. She's a certified adult and family peer support specialist. She's worked with her local mental health agency for about 8 years. She works with mental health workers, substance abuse workers, juvenile justice, and child welfare workers, among other agencies. She really does a lot of collaborative work. She supports and empowers families, and as you'll be able to see, she's passionate about this work. One thing that I love about Amanda's message is she wants to give families the hope that she found in recovery. We also have Morgan Eversole with us. We're delighted to have Morgan here. She comes from Mountain Comprehensive Care, and she's also a peer support specialist. She was supported by a peer support specialist in her early recovery, and she wants to share the gift that was shared with her by her mentor. And she is supported by her peer support specialist still. She says that being a peer support specialist is one of the most beautiful blessings of her life. And we're glad to have her here to share with us. Just one more note before I turn it over to them. As Brandon said, most of us are already assigned to small groups, but feel free, if you are in the wrong group, to exit that small group, go back to the lobby, and Brandon can reassign you. Questions before I turn it over to Amanda and Morgan? All right, Amanda, it is all yours.
Caroline, would you be willing to share the PowerPoint for me after all? Thank you.
I would be glad to. Let me just pull it up. I've got it
Thank you
here.
so much.
Sure.
Please excuse the background noise. My children are home from school.
We all have a lot going on in the background, no problem.
Yeah.
And just tell me, both of you, when you want me to advance the screen, and I will. All right. Look good?
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay, so we will go ahead and take it away. So good afternoon, everyone. We just want to thank you all for having us today. It's so good to see so many friendly faces in the crowd. Really makes this a lot easier. Morgan and I are really excited to be able to share our stories and lived experiences with you all today, and really how peer support has impacted our life thus far. We kind of will just jump right into it, into the presentation, and then here in a little bit, we will really introduce ourselves and let you guys get to know us a little bit better. So jumping right into it, getting it off the table here, what is peer support? So basically, peer support is peer-to-peer. It's exchanging those resources, those ideas, that knowledge, experience, social support, practical help. And thinking about it, it goes by many names. And for a long time, I remember back in the day before peer support was a billable service, some of us have been doing this for a really long time. Peer support has been called many names: peer support, peer mentors, peer coaches, peer advocates, and then so on. But they all have one thing in common. Next slide, please. They all use their lived experiences to help others, and lived experiences with recovery, with mental health, with child welfare, with the court system. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Next slide, please. So getting to know a little bit about me. My name is Amanda Metcalf, and like Caroline said, I'm the Family Leadership Coordinator for KPFC through the Systemic Care 5 grant. I am a wife and a mother to 5, and I always tell people, don't pray for me, come babysit. I am tired. All 5 of them are home right now. You can hear them running through the house, I'm sure. I am an avid Pokemon Go player, and I am an avid coffee drinker, daylight till dark. I always have it. I am a person that is in long-term recovery, and I'm very proud of myself for that. That's an accomplishment that I work on every day. And then I am also someone who has received peer support services. And I'm also someone who has been a peer support provider. So I've been on both sides of it. That's something that Morgan and I are going to talk about today, how peer support really changed our life. And then how we ended up giving back and continuing our journey and providing peer support to others. And we're really going to talk about what that looks like and how that's so important. I put these 2 pictures up here. These are my children, the ones that are running through the house. I have 3 biological children, and then my baby niece and nephew. I've had my niece since she was 3 months old, and I've had my nephew since he was 2. So that put me with 5, and they're kind of what keeps me going. And I just had to put their pictures up here so I could show them off to everybody. I work at home, so I don't get to do that very often. Okay, next slide, please. A little bit about my backstory and how I ended up getting to where I am today. So I started off my journey 11 years ago when my family was involved in the child welfare system. I had received peer support through a program that was offered in my community. And I'd really never had support like that before in all of my life. And it really, it changed me. And I'm going to talk about that here in just a second, but I can't emphasize the fact of how that support was so crucial in getting to me to where I am today. Just a blessing. I found that support that I had never had before. And then once I completed that program and followed through with training, I had the blessing of being able to go through a leadership training and becoming certified as a family and adult peer support specialist later. So I was able to give back what I was given. And then throughout those 8 years of working with my community mental health center, I was able to be involved working with families and youth throughout juvenile justice, child welfare, in and outpatient programs, the Trillium Center, family advocacy, parenting with principals, all sorts of different programs. And one of the best things about peer support is that it can be utilized just about everywhere. It really is a complementary service. It's supposed to complement other services. Something that I used peer support for was, I would see my peer support specialist in between my counseling appointments. If I could only see my counselor every other week, I could see my peer support specialist multiple times a week. And it really kind of helped me stay on track with what I needed. Next slide, please. Thank you. So when me and Morgan sat down to meet, we really talked about and shared our stories about where we were once, and then how peer support kind of changed our lives. And we really wanted to read you guys our statements that we wrote out. We were just going to leave them up here. And then we were like, man, I really want to read them. And I want them to know, I want everybody to know how important it was for me as a parent at that time to get peer support services, and how it, helped me get my family and myself to a place that we wanted to be. So I'm just going to kind of read it through you. And something I've noticed now as I've gotten older is I used to be able to talk about my journey and be able to kind of blow right through it, and it didn't bother me. But I think now when I look back, sometimes I get emotional. So please just overlook me. If I do, we'll try to get through it. So what peer support did for my family. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for peer support. I had never received any type of support like that before. My family was homeless, lost, and hopeless. When I found my peer support specialist, she told me that I had a purpose. She asked me what I wanted my life to look like. She listened to me and heard me through the pain and the anger that I felt. She held hope for me when I had none. She gave me the tools that I needed to pick myself back up and be the person and the mother that I wanted to be. It was the first time since I was 12 that I had long-term sobriety, and I felt what recovery was really like. If I fell, she was there to listen and help me back up. She was non-judgmental, but she held me accountable for my actions and decisions. After completing treatment and attending a leadership training, I pulled her aside and I said, I don't want to stop. I want to help others like I was helped. I want to hold hope for others like hope was held for me. My peer support specialist gave me the courage, the strength, and the encouragement to continue my journey and hold hope for other families who have lost theirs. And I can't stress the phrase holding hope. That is something that was so important to me in my journey. And it was something that I did for families that I worked with. If you cannot see hope, and if you can't hold it for yourself right now, I understand. But I want you to know that I'm going to hold it for you and your family. And when you're ready, I'm going to give it back to you. When you're ready to hold hope for you and your family, I'm going to give it back. But just know that I am here holding it for you. Next slide, please.
I guess that's my cue.
That's yours.
Yeah. So I didn't write down the things that Amanda did in her beginning slides, but I will just talk about them to inform you about who I am and my journey in active addiction and my journey in recovery. So my name's Morgan Eversole. I'm from small town Moorhead, Kentucky. I was born and raised here. And that's currently where I live. A lot of people ask me, like, how do you live in your hometown? That's where you use, that was your stomping grounds. Like, how do you live there and stay sober? And the answer is simple: because I work hard for my sobriety, and because I want to be sober. My sobriety date is October 1st of 2017. So I got 4.5 years clean. I got 3 kids. I'm a single mom. I work a full-time job. I do a youth street outreach program and a drop-in center for Mountain Comp. And then I do the heart program through CORE with the state. And I'm a full-time student. So I'm halfway through my degree for human services, and I decided that I want to change to business. And that's just how my journey is. I'm always just learning about myself and finding what I like, and changing things up. When I was in active addiction, I lost everything about my being that I knew. You know, I had no sense of who I was, no sense of control. There was nothing that I liked. You know, when I was in active addiction, I was that person that I had one goal, and that was to use daily. I didn't have hobbies. I didn't have activities. I used to live and I lived to use. And, you know, you really, really lose yourself in that process. So I'm going to get to where I met my first peer support. I want to say my technical first peer support, because I had been to treatment before and they had peer mentors and stuff. But I'm going to talk about my favorite peer support, the one that really helped me, the one that pushed me, the one that motivated me to do better. So I was in drug court. I kept relapsing. I just could not get my stuff together. So I went to jail on a sanction, and I found out that I'm pregnant. So they send me to rehab for 10 months. And this is where I'm going to use her name, just her first name. This is where I met Haley. But I didn't want to be there. I really didn't know at the time if I wanted to change, and I didn't know if I had it in me to change. I was scared. Still lost, still broken. She really held me up until I could hold myself up. She showed me a new way of living. She showed me how to treat others with love and compassion. She showed me how to not judge other people. And most of all, she taught me how to not be self-destructive. So I don't know. My journey is just so amazing. And when I had got out of treatment, I didn't really have no goals. My goal was to stay sober, to get a house, to take care of my daughter, and to get custody of my other 2 kids back. That was it. It was real simple for me. I got a job at a hotel, and I worked there for 10 months. And I was a certified CNA. So then I got a job with Home Health, and I worked both of them for a while. The peer support job, God just kind of blessed me with it. He knew what I would be good at, and he knew that I could help other people. So it kind of just fell in my lap. I started doing AA meetings in the jail, and I was doing them with another woman, and she was starting up a program, and it's a reentry program in the jail. And she asked me if I'd be her peer support. Mind you, like, I had all these insecurities in my head, like, can I do this? Am I going to be good enough? And then I remembered, like, other people see things in me that at times I do not see in myself. And that's why your peers are so important. Your support group is so important. Because sometimes I think we forget how far we've came, and the changes that we've made and what we've done in our life. So that job just kind of fell in my lap. And I love it. That's what I do today. So, like, now I work with youth. I work with adults. I work with families. So it's a wide variety of people. But they all have one thing in common. They want a better life. They're trying, and they show up, and they always reach out to me. I think that's one of the most rewarding things in this job, is that people trust me and they love me and they come to me and they ask me for help, and they feel comfortable enough with me. You know, it takes time to build that rapport, but once you do, like, sometimes these people will be in your life for months, and then sometimes years, and then sometimes forever. Like, you really, really, really never know. But it's a good thing. It really is a beautiful thing. So back to the slide. I'll go ahead and read this. In my mind, I was just going to post this up here and let you all read it while I talk, but I'll just read it to you all. During active addiction, I was a lost soul, broken, defeated, sick, lonely, and delusional. Oh boy, was I delusional. There was a time where I could not make any decisions for myself due to only choosing destructive behaviors. While in treatment, I met an angel who would guide me through my journey until I could direct myself. She validated my emotions and my feelings and allowed me to feel them fully with love and support. Never in my life was I allowed to just feel. Growing up, my mom told me how to feel, and only emotion she wanted to see was happy. So my peer support specialist was a fresh breath of air. She loved me with no judgment while still holding me accountable. I knew in my heart she wanted to see me happy and whole. She was such an inspiration. I wanted to be just like her. To this day, she is still a major impact on my recovery. And when I say that, she's not an active part in my life, but what she had done for me while I was in treatment still impacts my recovery to this day. Like, her aura is so strong that, like, I can just think about her and smile. Like, she's just one of those people that make you happy. And that's what I meant by that. Like, she still impacts me to this day, and she will for the rest of my life. Carolyn, you can go to the next slide, please. So this is just a little tidbit on me being a peer support specialist. Being a peer support specialist gives me the opportunity to help others grow into their true selves. This job fulfills my heart and spirit more than my wallet. And that's true, because peer support specialist really doesn't pay much. But at the moment, that's where my heart is. I have had job offers after job offers that pay way more, but I decide to stick and stay where I'm at because I know that's where God wants me to be at the moment. Watching humans put in hard work and grow is one of the most beautiful blessings in life. To know that I'm part of such a beautiful process allows me to grow with my clients. When I tell you this, they teach me more about myself than I teach them about their self. They really do. It's their little reflections. Usually that was the next part. Oops. Usually they teach me more about myself than I teach them, and all things finally come full circle. I get to give them the love and support just like my favorite peer support gave to me.
So now we're past all the emotional stuff. That stuff gets to us sometimes. We really wanted to leave you with some positive approaches that you can use with the families and youth that you work with. These are things that we do when we're doing peer support services, the way we interact with families and the way we talk with families, it matters. So we wanted to leave you with some positive approaches. So the first one, being non-judgmental and withholding that judgment for understanding the family's situation, understanding what the family is involved in and what's going on in their life, listening, even if you don't quite understand. Something that Morgan and I both had mentioned is how we finally felt like we were being heard for the first time when we got peer support. We had that very first opportunity to actually, say what we felt and to get things out. And it was just an amazing game changer for both of us. We had someone that was actually listening to us, validating the feelings. It's okay to feel that way. Think about the last time someone told you that you shouldn't feel a certain way or that you shouldn't be angry about something. And how does that make you feel? So being able to validate the feelings that a family or a parent or a youth is going through and how they're feeling, holding accountable but caring. This was something that me and Morgan both had talked about Morgan talked about how her peer support specialist really held her accountable. But remember to be caring. Let them know that you are there for them. Giving them a voice to be heard. It may be the first time. This may be the first time ever that they feel like someone is really listening to them and that they know they have a voice and a choice in their treatment and in their recovery. Look for the strengths, even if, we may not see them that way. This is, sometimes, or look for the strengths, even if we can't see them. And sometimes this is, hard to do, especially if a family is in a time of crisis or going through a crisis situation. If I knew a family had a hard time with transportation and they made it to an appointment, I would make such a big deal out of saying, oh, that's awesome. That shows real dedication and determination of getting these parenting classes done, because I know that's a barrier for you. That is a big strength that you did what you needed to do to get here today, to get done what you needed to get done for your family and get through child welfare or get through whatever system that you're going in. Do what you say. Some of us have been let down before. We have been through many, many services before. I got peer support services. I had things as a youth, but it never really stuck. And we had been let down before. So if you say you're going to do something, do it. Ask what is important to them. And it may look different than what you think. Sometimes we have in our mind things that we think people should do. What is most important to you may not be what is most important or what the family considers the most important. I have met so many families throughout the years, and each one is different. We may think that completing assessments or taking anger sessions is the most important thing, but when you talk to a family and they tell you that they're homeless or that they're struggling with recovery or they need a job before they can even think about getting anything else going, they're really letting us know what is the most important thing in their life at that time. And then remember, we all have families. Treat others as you would want your family to be treated. We all have backstories and we all have family members who have things going on. And I'm sure that at some point in your life, you may have found yourself one step away from being involved in child welfare, one step away from being involved in the court system or having issues at school. So always going into it, and remember, treating families and youth and people that are in recovery the way that you would treat your own family or that you would want your family treated. Next slide, please. So the recovery road is long and winding. And remember, the support and the hope that you can give families might be the thing that gets them through these curves in the end. And that's just kind of a little saying, kind of like the holding hope phrase. Next slide, please.
What I'm going to suggest, Amanda, at this point, because the next slide is our case study, I'm going to suggest that we give people a chance to unmute and talk to you and Morgan and ask any questions about your all story before we give them a case study. Because you've given us, I thank you both for sharing. And I want to just give all the participants a chance to give comments, ask questions. There's nothing in the chat, but feel free to unmute and make comments or questions at this time.
I just wanted to say, I heard you sort of apologize for your feelings, your emotionality. I bring it on. That's what I say. We all need to experience our emotions and embrace them, right? I welcome your emotions. I appreciate them.
Thank you so much. I mentioned that back in the day when I was new in my journey and I finally got a voice, I was so eager to use it. And I think it come off more of a, yeah, look where I am now, woohoo. And now that I'm older and I have kids and I look back at how far I come and I almost get emotional every time I think about it, like an overwhelming sense of pride. And I just so grateful sometimes to think of all the supports I had in my life.
Yeah, I was hearing you say that. I really like hearing how, over the course of your own development, you're having different emotions, when you think back to what you went through. I love that. We don't stop developing when we turn 18, right? We're
Right. Thank you.
Hey guys, I had a question for you. Morgan, I believe that I heard you say that, you weren't sure at one point that you wanted to change. And so I guess as peer support specialists, do you all, often run into people where that is the case? And if so, what's your approach for those individuals?
Yes, that happens all the time. So what I do with them, I always give them options, or I tell them take it one day at a time. Like you just have to stay sober today. You just have to make it through today. And then tomorrow we can review like how you're feeling, if you're still feeling the same way or if you're not wanting to do it. But for me, what I do to really help them is to help them find themselves, because in early recovery, people are so like strict to just focusing on treatment, like just kind of like the rehabilitation phase, but not like getting to know who you are. And that's why I failed so many times, because like when I was in rehab or a halfway house, like I wasn't getting to figure out who I was as a person and what I liked. So I was sober, but I wasn't enjoying life. So I just try to teach them to enjoy life and help them find what they like and what they love and what makes them happy. And, I just try to give them those good little feelings so they keep coming back for more, and that's okay. Like not everybody knows right away. It's just something you grow into, but you just got to keep trying and you just got to keep pushing. But ultimately I always leave the choices up to them. I always let them to decide on their own path and figure out what they want to do. So they feel like they have control over their life and they have control over their recovery.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Other questions and comments for our expert presenters?
I just want to say thank you. I really appreciated hearing your whole journey. It was really nice just to understand that piece. And I think I'm going to go back and I want to unpack your slides because I felt like there were so many great tips just for us to think about as we're approaching families. You both just have such a wonderful perspective that I think is helpful. And I love like even what you were just saying there, empowering and giving choices and some of these pieces that I think sometimes we, those of us who are not in that peer support role sometimes don't think about as much. So thank you so much.
All right, well, feel free to put additional questions in the chat. I'm going to go back to our presentation and Amanda and Morgan will present us with a case study that we'll then discuss. Brandon, here's your heads up that we're going back into the case study. It's not personally identifiable information yet, so we're still good. Let's see. All right, are you seeing